it's not a big deal, but sometimes they can meditate on that and they can go, okay, oh my gosh, that house we're going to buy, there's a problem with it. Don't worry. Our job is to find all the problems, but in many cases it can be fixed and you'll still like the house just as much. You just have to put aside some money for when you purchase it. So typically we're finding sort of medium-sized issues like that. Those real showstoppers where the house foundation is crumbling or it's infested with carpenter ants or those really scary, huge, splashy finds, they're a little bit more rare. It's 1 out of 50 we find.
Hi, here we are today on Beyond the Listing. I'm Pam Flitton with RE/MAX. I've been in the business for quite a few years and I'm your local expert in Austin. But today I'm talking with David Fairbairn and he is with CHI. He's a certified home inspector based out of Vancouver, British Columbia, and he has almost 15 years or 15 years plus experience in power engineering and detailed residential and commercial inspections, and he specializes in getting buyers to purchase the right type of house and sellers doing what they should be doing. David, take it over from here.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's great to chat with you. So yeah, as you said, I'm a certified home inspector. So we operate in Vancouver, BC, Canada, which is a licensed province in Canada. So that means that you have to have a license. You have to be licensed with a regulatory body. So that means I've had my license for going on about 14 years now. I started the company in 2011, just at the end of 2011, early 2012.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been doing it for a long time, and we're starting to grow now. So I have other inspector working for me, and we have been just nice and busy, even though the market's been up and down, and we've had our crazy times. But it's a great career. I'd recommend it to anybody.
Awesome.
I also have taught as well. So I do an instructor with Ashton College. So I've actually taught new inspectors. So I teach home inspections. And I love buildings. It's what I do. It's my bread and butter.
That's awesome. So how did you get into home inspections?
Yes, I was working as a power engineer. I'm not sure if the verbiage is the same in the US, but it's sometimes called a stationary engineer, which would be large heating systems, so boilers, chillers, things like that, HVAC. So my background's in commercial. I really enjoy commercial. Everything's bigger.
Yeah.
I really like it. And after a while, I realized that I really had the bug in me to strike out on my own, and I felt really entrepreneurial. And around the same time, my wife also decided to launch her business, and so both of us decided to become self-employed the year our daughter was born as well. So we had a big year, 2011, 2012. We had a newborn baby, and both of us quit our jobs,
Well,
both went into business.
that
So
had to have been a little bit stressful.
I a little bit of hair loss in that time period, so I don't think it ever came back.
So what kind of business did your wife get into?
She launched a music school,
Oh my
which
goodness.
she's a musician. She'd always been really creative at starting little side projects, and she had gigs going on. All of a sudden she said, well, I'm just going to focus all my energy on this music school. And we were reading a lot of books back then, The 4-Hour Work Week and
Mhm.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And that really motivated us, and we decided to both go into business. That was really hard at the beginning. Like any business, your phone doesn't ring right away.
Mhm.
So for me, after I got my license, I said, here I am, I'm ready to go. And I had 1 or 2 calls, but mostly crickets. And then by about the second year, I had some fairly regular business. And by the third year, it was like, okay, this is not a problem at all. I'm getting lots of calls, and I've been blessed with a lot of work ever since. And it's a great industry because it's not like you have these long projects that take months to complete. You go to the house, you inspect the house, you write the report, and you're on to the next one. So it's very clean and quick. And I really like that. I like action. I like to go to multiple properties in one day. So in the morning, I'll be up in top of a condo in False Creek in Vancouver, looking at the mountains. And then that afternoon, I'll be in a cabin in the mountains somewhere. So you never know where you're going to be. I love it. I wouldn't have it any other way. It's been great for me.
That sounds wonderful. And working for yourself, there's nothing better. it's not for everybody, but it is a great way to make a living. And if you work hard and you just get up and work every single day, you will definitely make a go of it, right? And so I've been doing this for 23, 24 years, and I just get up and work every single day. And if you do that, then you're sure to be successful, or in my opinion. My husband would never be able to do this because the stress of it would kill him, but I would never be able to do what he does every day. Congratulations to the both of you. Let's get into the inspections and kind of what you do and why inspections matter, even for new builds.
Yeah, so this has been a point that I've been really driving home with a lot of people and I feel like maybe the awareness of this is better than it has historically been, is that with new construction, especially within the last 5 years, we've had a lot of new projects coming online, custom homes and spec homes, and they really need to be inspected. So basically, my message is that every single house needs to be inspected. Even if you have a warranty, if it's a brand new build, you got a warranty through the builder, through the warranty company. Even if it's a small condo, you should always be getting inspections done. I've got this sort of example I give where I had a repeat client who was buying an investment property in Surrey, and this is a micro condo, and the city had just allowed this type of property where it was like 250 square feet, less than that. So I think 220 square feet. So it's smaller than a lot of hotel rooms. There's no rooms at all. It's literally a one-room condo. And they had really debated about whether to get an inspection done. And we quoted them our price, and we had a minimum. We said it was around I think it was 420 or something like that. And they were like, they actually canceled the inspection. They're like, yeah, we're not going to do it. Husband says, no, it's not worth it. And she's like, can you actually, you know what, let's go ahead with do it. They should finally talk them into it. I went out there and found that the unit had actually been involved in a flood, and a pretty substantial flood, and they had covered over all the water damage, and they had replaced the baseboards, but they had not remediated any of the mold. And we found that there was mold under the flooring, about 12 inches up behind the paint in the walls. The metal studs had actually rusted. It was a huge deal, and they ended up having to gut the entire apartment and essentially renovate the whole thing. And all that for $450, they dodged a huge bullet, tens of thousands of dollars. So I always tell everybody, it doesn't matter the property, just get it inspected. It's the cheapest insurance you can buy.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's better safe than sorry. And look at the headaches that they saved themselves by doing that for a minimal amount of money.
And we always tell everybody, you look at the costs, the closing costs, you look at your notary, you look at your appraisal, if you have a bank appraisal, you look at all your conveyancing costs, lawyer fees, stuff like that. I think you call it escrow. So you've got a lot of fees on there, and usually the home inspection's in the lower, it's the cheaper of the different parts of the process. And I'm really surprised. Back when 2021 hit, there was a big rush in the real estate market up here, probably hit down there too, where interest rates were at historic lows. Everybody was running out and buying, and multiple offers everywhere. And a lot of people were skipping the inspection. And a lot of people ended up with some real lemons where it could have easily been caught by an inspector, but they forewent the inspection. So really, you can't afford not to get it inspected. Just get somebody in there. And a lot of these issues aren't really issues that it takes a 10, 20-year inspector to find. Many, even entry-level home inspectors can find some of these issues. Just get somebody in there to have a look at it before you sign that dotted line.
Sure. And even in the craziness of the big rush when people were foregoing claiming anything on an inspection, I would still suggest that they get an inspection so they would know what's going on. Even though they couldn't claim anything, I would still suggest that they get an inspection just to be aware, because it's always better for buyer to be aware than them not to be aware. Correct? I agree. So tell me, what are some issues that an inspection would uncover?
Yeah, so the inspections, we always want to emphasize that it's a visual inspection. If you've ever watched I'm sure you watch HGTV or some of those, was it TLC, or some of those channels that they have the reality shows with inspectors going in, and we've got some pretty nice tools. We've got thermal cameras, we've got some drones and things like that, but it's primarily a visual inspection. So we can only see what we can see. We can't see behind the walls, and there are there's always that chance that there is a hidden issue, so it's not a guarantee that you'll never find a problem later. But we do look for, we got a pretty good sense about things. And most home inspections are going to cover your major systems of your house. So it's going to be like your roof, your electrical, your plumbing, your heating, your exterior of the building, interior, your attic space, ventilation, insulation, things like that. One interesting thing about our area is that appliances are actually not required, so we don't actually have to test any
Nice.
appliances at all. And I think in your state they actually are required,
Right,
if
we
I'm not
do.
mistaken.
Yeah.
Yeah, here it's actually an optional. So early on when I formed the company, I said, if you look at the cost of a dishwasher, it's $1,000 Canadian for a basic dishwasher delivered and installed. And so that's more than our inspection fee even is. And I should be inspecting these because we're saving the client a lot of money if we find any appliance issues. And so we made the call to inspect every appliance in the house.
Nice.
And in fact, we do something called a recall check where we actually check to see if there's any safety recalls on any of those. And we find recalls every week. So people really appreciate that. And that was actually a point of difference for us because some other of our competitors were not actually doing that. They were walking into, let's say, a condo or a small house, and they were actually just, they would look under the kitchen sink and they would look at the countertop and then they would move on to the next room. And that was pretty much it. They wouldn't run the dishwasher, they wouldn't check the oven burners, anything like that. And so clients were moving in and they're like, what's going on? My oven's not working. And it's technically, we don't need to do that. It's not in our standards of practice for our industry. And of course, I find it silly. I think that all appliances should be tested because they're worth so much. So we started doing that, and that was really helping us early on. So that's generally what's covered. What's not covered would be anything specialized, internet, equipment, home theater systems. We don't do that. If you're on a large property, we don't evaluate the soil stability on the property, but it's a visual inspection, the major parts of the house, so the things that make the house work properly. That's what I always tell people.
All right, so nothing beyond inside the walls or anything like that. But it's nice to know that you go above and beyond what a regular inspection would be. So
Uh,
that's really nice to know.
Definitely, yeah. I think that was something I was actually glad about. That's not included in the standards of practice for our industry. When I found that out, I was like, "Oh, this is great," because I had actually repaired appliances before I was even a power engineer. I was doing that, and I know a lot about them. So I was like, "This is great. Like we'll be getting calls from people all the time if we just do that." Because other guys are going to a 800 square foot condo, there's not much to see, and then they're skipping the kitchen entirely. There's not a lot to see in an 800 square foot apartment. You got maybe a bathroom or two,
Yeah.
and you got a living room, and that's pretty much it. And so if we can find all these issues that the other guys can, that would be a real unique selling proposition. And so that was one of the ways that I was able to build the company pretty large early on, is at that point of difference. So I was really happy about that.
I'm going to assume by doing those sorts of things, you're getting repeat customers, and your realtors must really love you.
Yeah, we're blessed with a lot of great realtors that we work with, a lot of really high producing teams. And yeah, they know that if they call us, the job gets done properly
Mhm.
and they can sleep at night knowing their client's going to be in good hands. Yeah, really have a good relationship with the realtors. I know that sometimes we go on social media, sometimes I've got a TikTok account, Instagram account, and I see people disparaging the real estate industry. And I'm always shocked because I'd say 99.999% of the real estate agents that we work with are great. They're easy to work with. We show up and they'll have the boxes moved out of the way for the attic. They'll tell me the age of the roof when I show up. They'll make sure the house is ready for the inspection. It's just, I don't know, this area is quite good. So we're really happy to work with a lot of these people.
I tend to think real estate agents are pretty awesome, but I'm a little
Yeah.
biased on these things. But I think most real estate agents really do their due diligence to take care of their clients. And especially once we've really built our teams, and we're only as good as the people that we have around us. And that's in our inspectors and our title company and our mortgage people and our construction people. So the better our team is, I think the better we are. But I think most of us really want to do a great job, and that's part of our team, and people like you make us look great. Kudos to you. So tell me, what are some things that buyers often overlook or they just don't think about?
All right. It usually goes the same way with us, is that somebody's fallen in love with the house and they're looking at, as it's a very emotional transaction, right? I buy a car, I'm not too emotional about it. I just want a reliable car. I buy a house, and my wife is picturing our family in the house before we've even made the offer. She's looking at the granite countertops. She's looking at the playroom for the kids.
Mm.
She's looking at the back balcony, and she's so excited. She's picturing our whole lives inside the house before we've even made the offer. And that's what I find a lot of people do, is they get, they're
Emotionally
in there for maybe
involved.
15, emotionally involved. And so that's where I heard somebody once say that I have a good, what's called a bedside manner. So when there's bad news, I would try to break it to the client in a very professional way and don't try to send them into a full panic, but also to be honest as possible. And we'll say, you know what, if we find an issue, let's say in the crawl space or the attic, you got some mold in the attic, those are common ones. Finding out that the plumbing system is obsolete. We've got a few different types of recalled plumbing that it's difficult to get insurance with those, and broken or old furnaces or hot water tanks. Those are really common as well. And most home buyers are just not going to be looking at those when they're doing a showing. They're looking at the house and going, okay, yeah, we like the color and we like the view and everything. And so they're not really thinking about the technical aspects of it. So that's where we come in and we go down and we to the nitty gritty, and we go through the house and we go, okay, you actually got some older wiring here and you're going to have to rewire part of the house. Now, in many cases, what we find, it's not going to be that much in the whole scheme of things. If you're buying a house that, now I'll talk values here. I don't know what values are in Austin, but presumably they're probably a lot more affordable than here. But it's very common for a detached house to be in the $1.5 million to $2 million range. And we find that maybe a hot water tank needs to be replaced. That's maybe $1,500 Canadian. It's not a big deal, but sometimes they can meditate on that and they can go, okay, this is, oh my gosh, that house we're going to buy, there's a problem with it. Don't worry. Our job is to find all the problems, but in many cases it can be fixed and you'll still like the house just as much. You just have to put aside some money for when you purchase it. So typically we're finding sort of medium-sized issues like that. Those real showstoppers where the house foundation is crumbling or it's infested with carpenter ants, or those really scary, huge, splashy finds, they're a little bit more rare. It's 1 out of 50 we find. But I'd say in the majority of cases, we're finding medium-sized issues, the occasional roof leak, broken gutters, bad chimney, maybe water damage in the basement, stuff like that. And so I would put it at the medium end is what we normally find. And then sometimes we go into the property and we find just no problems at all. And we give a big thumbs up. They're very happy to hear that.
Oh, that's awesome. I've had clients that have walked in and just absolutely fell in love with it. And I'm like, nope, you do not fall in
Yeah.
love until you see the report.
Yeah. Once you get past the inspection report, I always say when I hand the inspection report to the client, I say, you've just made it past the hardest part. So now, if you still love the house now, then
Yes.
you're good.
Once you see that report, then you can fall in. Absolutely. Using the inspection report, going on that, using the inspection report as a decision making tool. So, understanding the inspection report, should I buy this, making that as is it the absolute the worst thing ever, or is it just a maintenance thing? Should I purchase this home because of the inspection, or is it not a big deal? I've had inspection reports that was 60 pages, and most of it was not so bad, maybe one or two things. So having an inspector go, okay, these are not so bad, this is a thing you need to look at. So how do you guys go about looking at things like that?
Yeah, and that's such a great point you're raising, because how it's explained to the client, to the home buyer, is probably just as important as actually finding the issues. And this is what I tell my students is most inspectors are going to find the same thing. If you send 10 inspectors to the same house, I would say 90% of their findings are going to match up perfectly or be very close. But if you're a bad communicator and you're telling the client with a dead serious face, you've got a small drip on this toilet valve, the client's watching how you're reacting as an inspector. And so they're going, oh my gosh, he's really serious about this toilet valve. It's about a $20 valve. So framing that and explaining that to the client, okay, this is actually not a big deal. Now, so that's really important. That I would say is probably the most important thing. I would actually put it as over actually your technical knowledge, because if you have a decent knowledge of houses and you're a good communicator, you're going to do well as an inspector, and people are going to love you. Now, when it comes to whether or not to buy, we have a policy. We don't say buy or don't buy. About 3 to 5 times a year, I tell people not to buy. And it's usually people I either know who are repeat clients, or I know the realtor enough that I know that they're going to want me to say it.
Sure.
So we've had a couple where a huge issue came up. The house was an ex-marijuana grow-op, for example, and it was used as a drug lab, or the massive foundation problem, or just some of the worst things you can think of. And I'll say to them, look, I really recommend you don't buy this house. I'll just be candid with you. But in general, for the vast majority of our inspections, we say, you know what, I don't know the kind of deal you're getting, what price you're paying, and how much you love the house. So we recommend you discuss this with your real estate broker. They're going to give you advice, but our job is to just tell you all the condition of everything so that you can make an educated decision. So our job is to educate the client.
Yep.
And then the decision is theirs, but we don't tell them to buy or not buy. Generally, if they really press us, we'll give a nod and say it's pretty good. But generally, we don't say you should buy this.
Which is a fair point. Like you said, your bedside manner is not a big issue. This one's an issue, right? So again, I've had deals definitely break because of the inspector, and then I've got inspectors that are like, yeah, not a big deal. Oh, this may cost you a little bit of money, so you just need to be aware of this. So it's just a way that they speak. So when you spoke about bedside manner, that was the absolute best way to actually say that. Appreciate that. Why would a buyer get an inspection on a brand new home?
The best answer is TikTok. Go on TikTok right now, and you will see inspectors all over North America showing you the wildest new construction stuff. I've got a TikTok video I just posted about maybe 2 months ago, and we had, oh gosh, I think we're over 200,000 views on it, and I think it was several thousand reshares, so it went viral. And it was like, you got this new, it's expensive too. We're talking $1.8, $1.9 million duplex. So it's a half a duplex, $1.8 million. And so it should be really, there should be zero issues. And this house had a suite. So the way we build duplexes, we got two halves, and then each half has its own basement suite. Mm-hmm. So you can rent it out and you can pay for your $1.8 million mortgage. And on this house, it had 4 full bathrooms, no powder room. And they had 2 kitchens, 2 laundry rooms. So you're going to have 2 families there, 4 bathrooms, 2 kitchens, 2 laundry rooms, and they had a single hot water tank that was about 30 gallons, and it was electric. And I wouldn't even put that in my own, I wouldn't even put that in a townhouse that was 1,500 square feet with 1 bathroom. That's barely enough for a shower. Mm-hmm. And so I took a video of this and I showed it, and it's just stuff like that we're finding where it's meeting the building code, but we can just tell that there's going to be, when they move in, they're going to be mad about it. I always tell people the building code is there to make sure that the building is legal and safe. It's not going to fall down. That's the city's job. They're going to go in there and they're going to say, okay, it meets the building code. The framing is the right size. It's got the right number of doors, things like that. But in terms of quality control, it's not a quality control. We got siding falling off new buildings. We got roof leaks on new buildings. We got mold in new buildings. We got buildings with, I had one a little while ago. It was another duplex, and the gas piping, when he connected all the gas connectors together, he didn't put any sealant on any of the connectors. It was just metal on metal. Yeah. And they were leaking, and I found 4 gas leaks just in the same inspection. They opened up the walls in this house after the city came back, and the city actually told them they had not actually looked at the gas piping in this house. And they pulled the walls open, and they actually had to run all new plumbing and gas lines for the entire house because they had some water leaks at the same time. So the guy who was doing it was not qualified, but it still managed to get past the city inspection. So I can't drive it home enough is new builds you should always be inspecting, because the stuff we're finding, it can get caught early. The developer will fix it in many cases, or you can walk away. But don't just assume because it's got a warranty and it was passed by the city that it's therefore good. That is not what we are finding in the wild.
So they make mistakes just like other homes would be. How does a condo inspection differ from a single family?
Yeah, a little bit different. This is where, when I was first starting out, we I was getting a lot of calls because of my condo expertise. With the condo building, we take a more holistic approach to the building. So there's some areas that are going to be common property that are shared by all the owners of the condo building. So you would call that an HOA. We have a different term in Canada. It's called a strata corporation,
Mhm.
but you would call it an HOA. So like your HOA common property, we would have a look at that. So we'd say, okay, we're going to have a look in the parkade. We're going to have a look at the rooftop, mechanical room and boilers, and then we're going to have a look at the unit itself. Because when you're buying into a condo, you're buying responsibility of, let's say there's 50 units in the building, you're buying 1/50th, that's 2%. You're buying 2% of that siding. You're buying 2% of that roof.
Mhm.
You're buying 2% of the boiler room. And we always, when we book a condo inspection, we send an email to the listing agent and the buyer's agent. We say, please arrange access to these areas because we'll actually have a look at that as part of the inspection. And that gives buyers a lot more peace of mind.
Yeah, that's nice. Again, going above and beyond.
Definitely.
What a great inspector. How can agents and buyers use inspections as strategically planning repairs and making confident in decisions?
Yeah, there's a couple different views. I don't really have a position on it because it depends on your deal, but some people use the inspection report as a negotiating tool.
Mhm.
So we've actually had some clients that are actually quite pleased when we find major issues in the house they want to buy because they see it as dollar signs. They see it as, okay, we can go back and we can say, okay, the whole chimney is leaning off the side of the house. Now, a lot of home buyers would say, oh my gosh, we got to get this fixed or we got to walk away from this property. And some people go, oh, great, a discount on the house, and then I'll get somebody cheaper to do it later. That's up to the buyer. They can do whatever they want. The home inspection report is for use by the person that hires us, which is a home buyer. So it's up to them. They can do with it what they like. We're finding in many cases now when it's a buyer's market, very soft sales, very low sales around here, that they'll often go back and they'll renegotiate, open up the contract again,
Mhm.
and try to negotiate a price reduction. And then in some cases, the seller is really amenable. Sometimes they say it's not going to happen or they disagree with us. That's fine. And in some cases, the seller will not know about the issues and they'll actually go, oh, you know what? I'm going to repair that. So we actually get a lot of callbacks where we'll go back to a property after we inspect it and the seller has agreed to fix the issue as part of the sale. For example, like a leaning chimney that I used earlier, they would get somebody to come in and stabilize the chimney and they would pay for it and then they would give us the invoice and I would go back and just verify that it was done and then they remove the final condition on the contract. It really could go either way. And then if you got a hot market, sometimes I'll give them the report. There's a lot of problems on it. And we just say, now, but the realtor will look at them and go, it's not going to happen. You're not going to get a discount unless it's a hundreds of thousands of dollar issue. If the hot water tank's old or the roof's leaking, that's your problem because there's 3 people behind you who want to buy the
Yeah,
house. And so
depends on what type of market you're in. So if I'm a seller and I know that you're coming in to do an inspection, how can I prepare for it?
that's great. So we're going to other people's houses all the time, and so we want to be respectful of their property. And there's definitely a couple things that makes our life so much easier, and it also makes it easier for the seller as well. So the best would be just be prepared. Make sure that you don't have a stack of boxes in front of the attic hatch. Make sure that I can get into the furnace room. Do you have a large dog running around the yard? Probably not a great idea. Put him in a kennel for the afternoon or take him for a walk because I got teeth marks on my left calf and that inspection did not go well.
What was the
A lot could
dog's
be
name?
done. Yeah, I met that. It was a chow. I'll never forget that. And get your house ready as though it was going to be looked at by a professional because that's what we're doing. And we usually recommend the sellers don't be in the house when we're there.
Yeah.
Sometimes, obviously, that can't be avoided. Sometimes people work from home. Sometimes they're elderly with mobility issues. They have to be in the house. That's fine. But we usually recommend just go out for the afternoon, go out for brunch or something like that and take a walk and come back later. And that gives the buyers a chance to come and look at the property and discuss with their professional home inspector without worrying about what you're going to say. And then the last thing that really helps us would be having any documentation. Let's say I had one maybe 3 days ago where there was actually evidence of a past fire in the attic.
Oh,
So there was a bunch of smoke repair, and they had never disclosed it. And then it turns out that it was actually the owner before them had not disclosed it. So we went to the municipality and we pulled up the records, and it turns out that part of the attic was actually rebuilt back in 2006. And they had no idea about it. And so if you have your documentation
mm-hmm.
and you know the history of your house, that can help a home inspection go a lot smoother because there's not these 11th hour surprises. So if you can give us the history of the house and just disclose everything, because honestly, we're going to find it anyways.
Yeah.
You know, disclose the furnace is 50 years old and that you haven't changed a filter in 5 years. We're going to find out anyways. I already know how old your furnace is. So just disclose it. And that way there's no surprises when the home inspector goes in and all of a sudden the sky is falling. Just to be upfront, be as transparent as you can, and just make life easy for us, and everything will go nice and smooth.
That's interesting. I always say disclose, because if you don't, your neighbor will. So
Yeah,
if you
that's
don't,
right.
your inspector will. So I love that. So, and I always encourage my sellers to leave the house anyways, because sellers are uncomfortable when a seller's there. So I'm assuming it's the same for an inspector. Not that you're uncomfortable, but you're able to do your job better when there's no distractions.
Definitely, yeah. I've said to I had to say this to somebody a few weeks ago where I said, I like you, actually seem like a great person, but it's a little difficult for me to focus on what I need to do, and I'm being paid a lot of money to do a professional inspection by the other party, and so I just need a little bit more space. And they got the message. They were really nice, and they said, okay, yeah, no problem, we'll take a walk. And so most people are pretty good, but they can get anxious when somebody's coming into their house, and they feel like they have to defend the house. You know, they have to, every time you find something, they have to step in and say, well, it's not actually an issue. And you know what? It's actually better just to let us do an objective analysis, and don't worry. If you're anxious, everybody's anxious. Yeah. Like I said, I know one realtor, he actually bought a gift card for a family dining restaurant for this family, because they were wound up like a 7-day clock. And so he said, okay, here's enough to take you and the kid out to this restaurant for the afternoon. And they were thrilled, and that got them out of the house, and it cost them, I think, $100. So he was pretty happy with that.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a great idea. It just makes it easier for everybody involved, and I tell them to do the same on any type of showings. Just leave, go away. Yeah. I do mostly listings, and nobody wants you there. Just go. Your house is going to sell. Just leave. Anyways, David, this has been so enlightening, and I think a lot of people are really scared of inspections on both sides as a seller, because nobody wants to know that there's issues with their house, and the buyer doesn't really want things to be wrong with the house they're buying, even though it may be very simple or it could be very big. They need to know one way or another, and a seller never wants to know anything because it's going to cost them money one way or another. But again, it needs to be done, just for buyer be aware. Is there anything that you want to say as a closing?
You know what? Check us out on TikTok and Instagram. I think you're going to put the link there in the notes for the show. And yeah, it's David the Home Inspector on Instagram, and it's Fairbairn Inspections on TikTok. And we're starting to post some videos on there, and they're getting good traction. My website, Vancouver-inspections.com. And we actually do get emails from people like outside of our service area with just general questions. And I had somebody email me from, where was it now? It was somewhere in the U.S., and they had a question about some aluminum wiring, and I walked them through it. And so we love buildings. Generally, we'll be happy to chat with you. And yeah, it was great to be on your show. Thanks for having me.
I love that. I think I'll definitely look you up on TikTok, because I love TikTok myself. I know it's not healthy, but I love it.
As long as you're not doom scrolling.
Yes, I'm not. So I will definitely check you out at Fairbairn Inspections, and your website is www.vancouver-inspections.com. And that's your website. Do you have a phone number people can contact you at? Or do you want to give that out?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, 604-395-2795.
604-395.
2795.
2795. That's for those old people like me that are a little bit slower. 604-395-2795. Again, that is www.vancouver-inspections.com. And for you TikTokers like me, at Fairbairn Inspections, check them out. I'm going to love to check out some of those inspections that you walk people through that might be thrilling and informative. And if you've got any questions for David, and you teach as well, that's correct. And if they have any questions, just give him a call, don't text him, because that's a landline, not a mobile call, and he'll be more than happy to help you out. You can find him at all those things, and he'll be happy to get back with you. So, David, thanks so much for talking with us today. It's been really great getting to talk with you and getting to know about what you do and everything. So, again, I'm Pam Flitton with RE/MAX, and I am your local Austin gal. So if there's anything I can do for you, contact me as well at 512-736-4258. Thanks, David. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Pam.
There's always more happening beyond the listing. Stick around and catch the next episode for real talk and insights that help you move smarter and farther in real estate.